Jazbeen.
Yeah, hey.
How you doing? Jazbeen from Her America Story. You're a writer, a physician, and it's an upcoming podcast, correct?
Yes.
Cool. And it is about, are you first or second generation American?
Well, I think technically probably more like first. My dad came over to the States when he was like 9. So he pretty much grew up here, but I think technically I'm still first generation. Both my parents immigrated here.
I would say so. And where are they from?
So they're from Pakistan, both of them.
Okay. And you are currently in Texas, correct?
Yes, I live in Waco.
Is that a diverse area? Like I would think a lot of Mexicans, and is there a lot of Middle Easterners?
No, this is not a particularly diverse area. Yeah, no, not thinking. Really. I mean, we have, people that kind of pass by or pass through, but predominantly, it's mostly Caucasian, but we do have kind of little groups of diversity, I guess.
Had you dealt with a lot of, did you get a lot of trouble growing up there?
So I grew up in Reno, Nevada.
Okay.
And, so I grew up in Reno. It wasn't really trouble, but it was just different, being around people that don't necessarily look like you or have similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
And so, like these days it's really cool to have a representation, but that really wasn't a big thing back in the day. You just kind of, were different, and there wasn't really a lot of political correctness and things like that, and so you just kind of dealt with people and rolled with it and kind of found your place in their world and adjusted.
I don't know if it's better or worse. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about how it is now compared to back then, because I grew up in the 90s. I also grew up in I was about 10 minutes from New York City, so I had a really diverse area that I grew up in, and everything was cool, like somebody was either a jerk or they were a good person. Like it wasn't like nobody got picked on for being like different like that, because everybody was.
Right.
But at the same time, I never grew up in a place like, even down here, it's so different. Like South Jersey compared to like North Jersey is like a different state.
Yeah, I could see that. It really just I guess it depends on how you look at it. When you don't have a lot of diversity, you tend to just kind of blend in, for better or worse, and you just, less diverse group, I guess, areas, everybody seems to kind of hang out together.
Yeah.
So there's not really the clique forming and the separating into groups as much, I think. But I've lived in larger cities, like, for example, Atlanta. And you kind of do have the grouping off in different neighborhoods and different, things like that. And so even some of the most diverse areas, folks tend to kind of group off. And so you have diversity, but you don't,
yes,
in a sense.
Cliques, yes. What is your, out of all the places you've lived, what is the favorite of the places you have been?
My favorite, I guess, still has to be kind of where I grew up. I just love northern Nevada and kind of northern California and that area. Yeah. And, I made lifelong friends there. My family lives there. And so you just, it was an interesting experience growing up, but that's home. So.
Yes. There's nothing like it. Is your husband, is he the same race, or is he different?
No, he's Caucasian. His parents were from North Dakota.
Very cool.
And his background is a mix of European on both sides.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I was going to ask you too. Like I said, you're a physician. What would you do if you weren't a physician?
Probably a writer. I really enjoy writing. I've always enjoyed writing. I also love music. I don't know if I'd be a musician though. I enjoy music, but I'm not a great performer. I get real nervous and uncomfortable. Writing's kind of great because you can write and then you give it to somebody and they read it. You don't have to perform it for them.
What do you write?
So probably writing.
Yeah. What do you write?
So I just pretty much started, sometimes when you go into medicine, it consumes your entire life. So you don't really have a whole lot of room for hobbies and things a lot of times. And so now that, I got done with training and had some kids and now I'm kind of found my groove, I started writing for an online publication and just kind of about my experience growing up, in my small town. It's just kind of a way to start writing, and then some pieces about medicine as well. But I really enjoyed kind of doing medicine at work and doing something totally different when I'm writing or not at work.
What kind of?
But I do, have some opinion pieces about medicine and kind of the impact of medicine on the physician and that kind of thing.
How does that work? Because I used to work in pharmacy, and it just seemed to be like, with whatever ad was on TV is what people come in and ask for. Like, do you feel
Really?
do you feel people are like just overprescribed because they're seeing medicine on every commercial break on TV, or how do you feel?
It's kind of funny. I feel like I've had this discussion a few times, more so recently, and then the one that comes to mind was with my brother-in-law, and he was like, I really feel like people shouldn't be seeing all these different medications because it makes them wanting to have the medications. So I can kind of see that argument, but in the same, in the same respect, it also allows people to know that those medications are available for something that,
something
a problem that they might have. So it almost helps them advocate for themselves.
And another thing too is
I
like,
don't mind.
I don't know, the 10 minutes of possible side effects in a commercial. It's like, wow, I'd rather deal with the depression than have
problem.
have all that bleeding.
Totally. The commercials are pretty ridiculous.
Yes, there was one we did. It was a sleeping pill, and one of the side effects is that you could get in your car and drive while you were asleep and get in an accident. And no, I do not need. I'd rather stay up all night and not sleep. Than drive off a bridge in my sleep.
Such a specific side effect too. You may get out of bed, open the door, go outside, get in your car, drive off a bridge.
Yes.
Right. They just have to cover themselves for every possible scenario.
And you know what happened? That happened once. That definitely happened once. So they have to throw it in there.
Yeah.
The other thing too, though, I would notice though is like whatever drugs the doctors pushed, whatever the ones we pushed was whoever bought us pizza that day. Like it was like, the drug reps they bring you.
It really used to be like that. I think in recent years it's changed a lot because they don't really, I work in a hospital, so we don't really get that advertising. So we just prescribe what we think is appropriate.
See, Xanax lunch?
That used to be how it was.
Xanax lunch was delicious. Like, yeah.
So I'm curious, have you been in it long enough to kind of know like how the internet has affected things?
Oh, definitely, because people will look things up before they come in, and they have their own research. And I don't really mind. For me, it's an opportunity to educate, and so we kind of just go over, okay, well, what have you read? And so then I end up going into a little bit more detail than maybe they were interested in, but at least then they feel like, well, my concerns were validated, and I, had my questions addressed and things like that. So I'm one of those people that'll just sit there and talk with folks until they feel comfortable.
Because I think it would get annoying when somebody was like, well, I read that this is gonna like...
I read that I could drive off a bridge in my sleep.
Yeah, you kind of usually say, you shouldn't probably be looking at things on the internet, but here, let me tell you how it really works.
Cool. And then I actually have one more. Do you ever get requests for like weird like wonder drugs? Like I know when that movie Limitless came out, I don't know, that was the guy could take a pill and it would make him like super smart and aware of everything. And I saw ads pop up for pills that could do that. So is that like a thing? Do people request that?
Not that I've encountered, no.
And can Slim get that pill?
Yeah, do you have any wonder drugs that will make me smarter, faster, stronger?
I don't think so.
I remember once too, like I said, I worked in pharmacy, and I remember seeing a news piece about a drug that Air Force pilots would take to stay up for days. And I'm like, oh, we got that. And I tried it, and I was like, I took it, and I didn't sleep for days. And I'm like, I'm never doing that again.
That was meth?
That sounds dangerous.
Medical marijuana, it was called. But yeah, like I remember I was driving, and the lines on the road started like floating, and I was like,
shit.
oh my God.
Oh boy.
I gotta stop, never take this again. Like,
can you imagine flying a plane like that? That doesn't sound safe.
Right? I was like, yeah, if it's happened to me in a car, those pilots they're not doing good.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
As a parent, Jazbeen, I was going to ask you, do your children face anything that you faced as a kid, or do they face worse, or do they have it easier?
Well, I have babies. So one is 3.5 and one's 2.
Okay.
And so I'm just kind of waiting it out to see what's going to happen because, we're a little bit of an unusual couple. We're in a smaller town and we're an interracial couple. And so I'm really interested to see how things go as they get older and go to school. They're in daycare right now. And so far we haven't really faced anything strange or abnormal. Most people are fairly friendly.
That's cool.
So I don't know if that's just being in a small town. Maybe it would be different if we were in a bigger city. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And when is your podcast? When are you going to have the first episode up?
So hoping mid-October.
Okay.
I'm just learning how to do this editing and all that stuff. And so I'm hoping by mid-October we'll have our website and the podcast up.
Are you going to have an interview every show?
Yes.
And you're going to be talking
Definitely.
to first and second generation American women,
female,
right?
yeah, female Americans that just kind of talk about their experience. I've asked them to kind of come up with a story or a few different scenarios of when they really felt like they were different, or their situation was unique compared to those around them, and how it made them feel, and how to kind of cope with those feelings, or how they coped with those feelings, and what they recommend to other people that are in similar situations now.
That's amazing. I think that's a great subject. And
yeah, it's awesome.
I think a lot of people would like to hear that.
What drove you to come up with that?
So I, had the kids kind of close together, and I was looking for a hobby outside of work, or an interest outside of work to focus on. And I like podcasts, and I've been, listening to them for a while. I came across one called, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, but Good Muslim, Bad Muslim. And it's two girls that kind of talk about their experience of being Muslim in the United States. And what really struck me as awesome about their podcast was not necessarily the religious aspect of it, but their stories about growing up in the States. And I was on my elliptical, doing my thing, listening to their podcast. And I was like, hey, I never had anybody that I knew that was like me growing up that I could really relate to or talk to. I pretty much would try to relate to anybody that was different, because I felt like I was different, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, I just listening to this podcast, even as an adult, I was like, hey, this is cool. Like, I feel like they're kind of like me. And just that feeling of kind of, I guess, happiness to be able to relate to somebody else. I thought, other women and might benefit from this kind of a podcast where you talk about your experience specifically growing up in the States, because it is different as a first and second generation American. And I'm not really, I wanted to do something that was fun for me, and the storytelling part of it is more of my interest, and so not really a religious aspect, but more just storytelling and a diverse array of backgrounds, because I think it makes it more interesting.
I agree.
That's awesome.
I agree. I was going to ask too, as a physician, is there anything you indulge in that you shouldn't, but you do, like a guilty pleasure?
I have a sweet tooth. I have a major sweet tooth, so I have a really hard time with sweets. I have to really think about it and be like, all right, don't eat that. It's not good for you.
Oh my
God.
God.
That's probably my biggest.
I can't control myself when it comes to I buy an Entenmann's cheese Danish, the big one, and I've eaten like 3/4 of it, and then I'm like, I feel sick, but it's so good I can't stop eating it. Like, it's so good.
Well, like Saturdays, you guys are gonna think I'm so weird. Every Saturday I eat a donut, and I don't care what's going on, what's happening in the world. I have to have my donut or my sweet, like a muffin or something that's absolutely terrible for me, for breakfast on Saturdays.
Is there a go-to donut?
That just makes me happy.
Is there
exactly, and I look forward to it.
Is there a certain one that you like every time, or do you mix it up?
I usually mix it up. I'm often working every other Saturday, so they've got this kind of cinnamon roll frosted thing with nuts on it. I don't know what it's called,
great.
but it's delicious.
Yes.
That actually sounds like you came up with a really good technique for somebody that's trying to watch eating sweets, because when you have that, okay, I know Saturday I get a donut, so you're like not craving it all the time, and you just, no, it's all right, I'll have a donut when Saturday comes.
I'm just laughing at that because
helps.
one of my friends, he was with a girl, and she was trying to do these kale smoothies, but the cheat day was one day a week, and the cheat day she would eat like 6 bacon, egg, and cheese like muffins.
Oh my goodness!
Like, yeah, that was the cheat day. The cheat day was like
Make yourself sick.
3 tubs of ice cream. He was like, "Wait a minute, the rest of the week is just being thrown off right now."
It just ruins everything else.
That just sounds uncomfortable.
When he told me, like, my mouth was just open. I was like, "What? Like, no, that's."
That's not a good idea.
It was not. It was not. Do you know, Jazbeen, who your first interview will be?
So I've interviewed a girl named Sumaira Rashid. She is a dentist in New Jersey, actually.
Cool.
And her parents are from Pakistan. She was, I believe she was born and raised in New Jersey. And she's got some interesting insight. And then I have a a girl who is a trauma surgeon and a mom. She's down in Florida, and her name is Kali Hussein, and she is pretty fascinating. She's got some great stories. And so that interview is actually, I'm really excited for everybody to hear that one. So I've got a few that I've worked on, and I'm just kind of working on the editing process now, and just recording, trying to record an interview once a week. So I'm just kind of compiling my list and editing and getting the music. The music choice thing is a little difficult for me.
I saw you post
find
about
something
that.
I want to hear every time you listen to the podcast.
Is that like going to be used in your opener?
Yeah, because I think I definitely would like one, but I can't find what I want to use, that someone's going to want to hear every time they listen to my podcast.
Yeah.
It's hard to find something.
And it's funny, and we think it's a joke, but like I'm in a group message on Twitter for Modern Family, and somebody posted a screenshot of a podcaster from Facebook saying that they were not going to use music, they were just going to use nature sounds, like I guess animals and like waterfalls and whatever. And
that could work.
I was kind of like, I kind of want to do that. Like that's kind of amazing at the same time. Like
that sounds like a 9:30 interview.
It's like kind of wakes you up, and you could listen to early morning.
Eagles screeching, all that.
yeah.
But I kind of like the nature sound aspect of that. But I don't know, and I don't know where you would come into where it wouldn't be like copyright infringement. Like I forget, is it like 20 seconds?
Well, I'm making it,
use?
so it's definitely going to be original.
So yes.
So I'm either making the music or my husband is. So we're kind of working on that together.
Oh, you guys do music? That's awesome.
We dabble with it or dabble in it.
What kind of instruments?
So guitar, I play guitar, and I bought a mandolin, but I'm not very good at it. Still trying to play with that a little bit. Oh, sorry, I forgot to turn this pager off.
Is that your doctor pager?
What was that? No, I'm done with work. I just forgot to turn this thing off.
She's like, I'm in an interview. I can't help that pager right now.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm off. But yeah. So and then we have the keyboard. We've got a synthesizer and a mixer, and so we've got a lot of options to kind of play with.
Cool. What is one of your favorite genres of music?
So I am kind of like an indie rock type girl. I still like Wilco and old Weezer and I don't know, stuff like that.
Did you hear they just
Jenny Lewis and the Watson Twins? I don't know, kind of things like that.
Nice. Weezer just redid Africa. They just covered Africa by Toto.
I like it.
So good. So good.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was about time that song was covered.
Right?
I
agree. What was I going to ask? I don't know. Oh, as a physician, are you just like a general ER physician, or do you do a specialty?
I'm an internist, so I take care of all adults, and I work in the hospital, so I'm called a hospitalist. So I'm in the hospital all day. I admit people from the emergency room to the hospital. I take care of them while they're here, and then I send them home.
Okay. How long are you going to be an intern for?
Oh, so I'm not so it's an internist is the name of the thing, and so I'm done being an intern. I did all that.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so I finished my residency like in 2014.
Okay.
So I was done with training and then moved down to Texas. I did my training up in Reno, in Nevada.
Cool.
I don't mean to insult you, but like hospitalist, it sounds like something that somebody would make up. Like, yeah, I'm a hospitalist.
I know.
Yeah.
It's my job, I just hang out in the hospital. It has a lot of great aspects to it. When I go home, I'm done with my work.
It's like a step up from like loiterer, like just the sound.
Yeah. But it's pretty cool because most of us that do this job, we work 7 days on, 7 days off. So I get a lot of time at home with my kids, and I can have side projects like this.
That's cool.
So I'm curious, what's something that you would say really stood out in growing up in America that you experienced that somebody that was born here or lived here forever, whatever, wouldn't experience?
So I think most of it has to do with it's hard to pinpoint one thing, but most of it has to do with just how your culture at home kind of clashes or feels different than those around you. like my house always smelled like curry and spices growing up, and so I always smelled like curry and spices growing up. And so it's just one of those things where you go to your friend's house and you're like, oh, this doesn't smell like curry and spices. And then if you speak two languages, a lot of times you'll have some difficulty with just kind of the way you pronounce things or things of that nature, and that can be with anybody that speaks two languages. I guess you don't necessarily have to be a first-generation American, but I think we experience that probably more than others.
Did you speak
just learning two languages?
Did you speak Arabic to your parents and English at school?
I speak Urdu, which is a lot like Hindi.
Okay.
And so I grew up speaking with my parents, and then so that was kind of unique. And when I actually first moved to the States, I had started school so I was born in Denver, but I had moved to Pakistan when I was like 2 with my family, and started school there around preschool and stuff like that, and then came back.
Oh, wow.
And so when I came back, I had learned, and I came back after like 4 years, so I was about 5 or 6 when I came back to the States. But it's just, when you're learning how to speak and that kind of thing. So I had learned a lot of British English words for some reason. So like frock for dress and just weird things. And so I grew up in LA, or I was in LA for like a year when we first moved to the States, and everybody was from like all over the world. So nobody ever thought I talked funny or said anything about it. But then I moved to Reno, and they were like, what are you talking about? Why do you say it like that? And so that made me really self-conscious. I was like, oh my gosh, I do say it weird. Like, why do I talk like this? And so.
Were your parents supportive of you marrying a Caucasian man?
They were. It took a little time, I think, especially for my mom to come around. She came to the States at an older age, so she was about 18 when my mom and dad got married. And my dad, as I said, had grown up here. He was born in Pakistan, but he moved here when he was about 9. So he was a little more open to the idea. My mom was a little bit like, what about our culture? How are we going to pass this on?
I figured it'd be the other way around. Like your dad would be more old school and your mom would be.
Yeah. Okay. My family's not normal. So we're
no
not
family
typical of anything. Yeah, I guess no family is. But my family is not a typical Pakistani American family, I guess I would say. And so my mom, it took her a little while, but she came around, and I met my husband in medical school. And so, he had a good job. And so that made her happy. That was one of her criteria, so we could check that box. And so it all worked out. And, my sister had married her high school sweetheart. She's a couple years younger than me, but she got married before I did.
Oh.
And her, high school sweetheart was a Caucasian guy. And,
so she
they've
already
been together for like ever.
She broke your parents in.
Yeah, so she broke them in, and then I just had to work a little bit on my mom, and she came around.
Nice. Nice. That's awesome. I was just looking over the notes real quick, seeing if there was anything I missed. But that's awesome. When did you say again that your first episode's coming out?
So I think it's going to be mid-October. I don't have an exact date yet.
Okay.
But I should have it up on the Twitter, on our Her American Story Twitter here soon, probably within a week or so.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you know what site you're going to be hosting with?
I have not finalized that yet.
Okay.
I'm so last minute. I know. I wish I had.
No.
I
would just say stay away from SoundCloud. We were on there for a while, and it was just so like 1 minute they were shutting down, 1 minute they were fine. We just finally got off of there. We did the Podbean, which is great. And the other one I've heard is good is Lisbon, but they're a little pricey. They could be pricey.
Yeah. I need to look around a little bit and finalize who's going to be hosting.
Yes. Absolutely. But thank you so much, Jazbeen. It's been great talking to you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful talking to you both and laughing a lot. I needed that after work.
And again, what is your handle on Twitter?
It is at Her AM Story. Awesome.
Are you on Facebook and what is it, Instagram and stuff as well?
My Instagram is very slow to pick up right now, but or Facebook. So primarily I'm just doing Twitter right now.
Okay. Not a problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys have a great night.
You too.